The learning objective of this video is that by the end of it, you can give examples of qualitative and quantitative observations. Let's take a look at the difference between the two. Quantitative observations involve quantities, amounts, magnitudes, or numbers, usually some sort of measurement. Qualitative observations involve qualities. This could be colors, textures, hardness, smell, taste, shininess, just to name a few. An ex-student of mine said that he remembered the difference between the two by looking at the N in quantitative. When he saw that N, he remembered that this involves some sort of numbers. Let's look at an example here. If you were doing research on trees and taking down some quantitative data, some quantitative observations you might look at are the heights of the trees, the length of the leaves, or the number of fruits that they produce. Some qualitative observations might include colors of the leaves, or textures of the leaves, or the smell of the leaves. Let's say you're doing research on shells. Some quantitative observations might be the shell's length. You measure the width, or the spiral width of the shell, or the spiral height. You could also measure the weight, or the mass, or the volume. Remember, something involving numbers, and you see the N in quantitative. If you were taking down qualitative observations, you might observe the shininess, or the smoothness, or the shape, or the colors on the shell. Look at this picture, pause the video, and write down as many quantitative observations that you can. Now that you've unpaused the video, I'll just share a few quantitative observations with you. There are 6 birds, 2 wooden sticks, 6 eyes. I'm sure you came up with many more than this. And if we were able to actually hold the birds and take more measurements, we might be able to measure the length of the wings, the weight of the birds, or the length of the beak. Now write down as many qualitative observations that you can think of. Pause the video. Now that you've written down your observations, I'll show you a few. Some have green feathers. Their eyes are black, white circles around their eyes. They have scaly claws. Again, I'm sure you came up with many more than this. Now, when we take observations, we're going to have qualitative and quantitative data, and sometimes we'll have both. So, for example, some of you might have observed that 4 birds have red beaks and 2 birds have light blue tail feathers. So in this case, these observations include a quantity and a quality. Now that you've seen the video, go ahead and assess yourself. Do you feel like you're a novice at identifying qualitative and quantitative observations? Meaning you still feel like you need to put in a lot of time and you're struggling with the difference between the two? Or do you feel like you're an apprentice? Meaning that you're starting to get it, but you still struggle at times? Or do you feel like you're an expert? Now, an expert means that you can teach somebody else the difference between these observations.